This is Amazing Americans with Kate Delaney.
And we're back with Mitch Mueck. Mitch, I know that we're going to talk about the Death Valley experience and what that was like to be the foreman over 25 men, and you weren't even 18 years old. But before we get there, you had what as far as education is concerned?
I do have an 8th grade diploma.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, my brother has it on his ranch in California still. I live in New York. But I graduated 8th grade, but they mailed me the diploma because I was banned from the ceremony, which I no doubt deserved. But I had zero interest in attending a graduation ceremony, so it was like they thought they were punishing me, but felt like Brer Rabbit, Please don't throw me in the briar patch.
Because I can just move on from there, exactly.
Oh, I did a little bit of high school, but one year I went on Christmas vacation, and, I'm still on it.
It just
kind
continued.
Of a working vacation.
Yeah, it just continued. So with that kind of a background and then and going through school just to 8th grade, what'd you do after that?
Well, I did a little bit of high school, and then I had to leave the state of California because, they had these truancy laws, and I'd already had a taste of that when I was 12. I'd missed so much school in 7th grade, they came and arrested me and put me in front of the judge. And the judge says, "Boy, what is your problem?" I said, "I don't have any problems." "Well, why don't you go to school?" "I don't like school." I said, "Well, the problem is that it's the law. And if you don't go to school, you're going to go to juvenile hall. And in juvenile hall, you'll go to school every day. You just won't go home at the end of the day." He says, "You got a problem with that?" And I said, "Well, no, I wouldn't like that." I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal." And the judge looks at me, leans forward, says, "You're going to make me a deal." My mom's kicking me under the table, says, "Shut up, boy." And he said, "What kind of deal are you going to make me?" I said, "Well, I'll keep a B average in all my classes, and I'll go to school at least 3 days a week." And he looks at me and he goes, "A B average?" I said, "Yes, sir." 3 days a week? I said, "Yes, sir." And he paused and he looked at me and, "Okay, you're on 3 months probation. If you drop below a B in any of your classes, and I'll get your transcripts every Friday, or you miss more than 2 days in any week, I don't care if you're dead. You'll be standing in front of me and I will not be happy." So that's what I did for the next 3 months. Some weeks I'd go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I didn't have to do 2 days in a row. And some weeks, if I wanted to go backpacking or something, I could go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, take off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But I think more than anything, it just gave me a sense of control, because what I really hated about school was that it was mandatory. You didn't have an option. And you studied the subject they gave you, and you reached the conclusions that they taught you. And I just wasn't compliant. I love to read, and I love to learn, but I didn't like those parameters. So if they'd have said school's optional, come if you want, it's open, learn what you want, I'd have probably been there 7 days a week. So love to read and learn and put things together. So I never felt like my life was really diminished for lack of a high school diploma or a college degree for that matter.
And you certainly had grit, because you worked, how old were you? You worked in a mining company, and you were in, of all places, Death Valley, which is really tough.
Well, in Redding, California, where I had been for my earlier teenage years, it can get hot there. The hottest I ever saw was 118
Oof.
in Redding. The record up there is 121. And in Death Valley, it never got over 128 while I was there. It wasn't a lot of difference. A lot drier in Death Valley. But you know, you're 16 years old and you don't know what you can and can't do. Probably kill me now, but yeah, I was 16. I needed to leave the state, and at 17, I lied about my age and got a job in an open pit mine in Death Valley. And before I turned 18, they made me the foreman in charge of the mine. I was in charge of all the equipment, 25 men, and in charge of the blasting. I wasn't even old enough to legally be there. But yeah, how exciting is that? I mean, what boy doesn't want to blow stuff up?
Boy, I like the way you put that. What was it like day to day working, especially working as the foreman?
Well, it was hot. We had a lot of big, heavy equipment, and when I went to work there, I would take home the operating and maintenance manuals on all the equipment and study it, and worked every shift that I could. To me, it was, you know, you're getting paid to drive big Tonka toys and blow stuff up. How much? It doesn't get better than that.
Right.
But it was a challenge, because when they made me foreman, I had men there that, you know, they had 20, 30 years experience in mining, and I'm 17. And in the beginning, the young guys thought, oh, this is great. You know, we got this young guy in here, we'll get away with whatever we want. And the old guys were like, oh man, this kid's going to mess everything all up. But within about a month, it had reversed. The young guys hated me, and the old guys respected me, because I would go to them and ask them for suggestions and thoughts, their thoughts on things. And the young guys, you know, I wasn't going to let them get away with walking all over me. So, and I was big, you know, 6'2" and a couple 100 pounds, and wrestling with my brothers and growing up hard, you know, they're a little bit intimidating. Had hair about halfway down the middle of my back, and a bit of an attitude.
So you could pull it off, in other words.
Well, yeah, it seemed to work. And I worked there for 2.5 years, and then that's when I got married the first time. I was on vacation in Northern California when I met Nadine, and we were writing letters back and forth, but she developed cancer while we were engaged, and we got married in December of 1975, and she died 6 months later.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and to lose her so quickly and have that young love, how did you deal with that? How'd you cope with that afterwards?
Well, you know, I tell people it's a tragedy, of course, but in looking back, I have to say it was probably the most valuable experience of my life.
When we continue with our special guest, Mitch Mueck, dealing with the blows of cancer at a young age, what that lesson taught him and what he passes on to others through one of his books, The Story. That's coming up.
Stay inspired. Stay tuned to Amazing Americans.